GM, just a quick one before we get going. So, as you know, the Blockmates podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Certainly shouldn't be considered as financial advice. We have absolutely no idea what we're talking about half the time. So, any investment decision you do make should be based on your own research and your own understanding of the risks involved. One more thing as well, there's around 50% of people who listen regularly who aren't subscribed yet. So, if you please could just do us a favor and hit the subscribe or the follow button or the like button, helps the content grow, helps us grow, helps it reach more people like yourselves, and it means the world to us as well. So that's the last I'll ask of you. So yeah, let's get to the episode. All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Blockmates podcast. This one I've kind of been silently excited about. I might have kind of posted on the main account and my personal account about these guys for quite some time now. But I'm so glad we've kind of managed to align calendars and get this over the line, because I can only imagine how busy you guys are at the minute. So Robert from SSV, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, it's been really exciting. The last few months have been a big time for SSV now. We recently launched. I'm sure we'll get to that later. But yeah, no, it's nice. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to chat about all of these really important things in the staking industry. So yeah, once again, thanks for having me on, sir.
No problem. It's our job to be bringing on the best and the brightest in kind of these emerging fields and the areas that we think could change the industry for the better. There's a lot of noise in this industry, as you well know. So we try to
Mhm.
kind of we do like to see what's happening in the noisy parts at times as well. But like my real what takes up the vast majority of my mind share is looking at the likes of what you guys are building. And as I say, I'm going to use this as a very selfish, explanatory, and exploratory conversation as well. So,
Yeah,
so
more than
that's my
welcome.
ulterior motive here. So, but before we get into it, I like to kind of just take a little step back with the guests and just kind of ask, what's your personal kind of origin story into the kind of role that you're at now with SSV? Was there any kind of, I'd like to say, like, traditional path in. There is no traditional path in this space, but I'd love to kind of see if there's anything loosely tethered to the
Yeah.
industry that brought you here.
No, very interesting. So I think around 2018, I started learning about blockchain and technologies and all the different chains and what was happening, and I found it super interesting. So my background is basically in research and writing. So I was a freelance researcher, but as I got to learn more about blockchain, I really got interested. So I was like, okay, I need to find a job in this industry. And so kind of I started getting familiar with the concepts, and then I applied. I worked as like a crypto journalist for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And that gave me a really good overview of like, I wouldn't say the entire crypto scene, because like how many thousands of cryptocurrencies are there in projects? But I think of the main idea of the concepts, the ethos of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and I started to also do some work on the side. So I freelanced for a few companies, crypto security, just writing more like explanatory blog posts and stuff. So I like, I kind of like eased into the scene, just to I got acquainted with the technology. And then yeah, I found SSV, and I thought what the project was doing was really, really interesting. I feel like, at that stage I was like, wow, these guys are solving, quite a big problem in the staking industry. I mean, since the early days of proof of stake, centralization has been like, a topic, and obviously like, a risk factor as well. And yeah, so I started working with a company on the core team, and I basically do externalize a lot of information. So I'll be writing the blog posts about new updates, DAO decisions. I basically try and keep everyone in the community informed about what's happening with SSV, and also to kind of give them more of the idea of the narrative of like, why what we're doing is important and how it kind of fits into the greater staking, like story. So yeah, I mean, year and a half, almost 2 years later, my mind has exploded with like, the staking industry, and I've kind of just like really zoomed into that niche now. And so yeah, here we are. I'm actually able to talk with you on this podcast, a few years down the line, so it's really cool. It was a very gradual, coming into the scene, but like I've been very interested. I still am super interested. So yeah, I'm just gonna just keep on going deeper and deeper. And yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. Yeah, once it is a bit of a phrase that gets thrown around, but like literally when you go down the rabbit hole, there is no coming back. I don't know anyone who's just went in and as came out the same and they went into it. Just doesn't happen.
Mm,
It's interesting if you're generally curious about stuff as well. That
mm,
you like when if I take a week's holiday or 2 weeks holiday, come back, I feel like I'm so far out of the loop, and you're just
yeah,
constantly trying to play catch up.
but that's the
I
beauty,
suppose
I
it
think,
must
about
be
it.
nice to specialize like what you're saying you're doing as well.
But I mean, in the staking industry now, especially, things have been going. There's always something new, and I think that's also one of the reasons I really enjoy the scene. Is like there's always something new happening. It might not be that interesting, or it might be game changing, but there's always something potting, and there's always someone with a cool idea. So that's really got me going, like, and not getting bored. It's not a stagnant
Yeah.
industry.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Not by any stretch. Um, so for people who might have kind of seen you guys in passing, or this might be their first kind of real piece of content that they're listening to or digesting that kind of covers you guys in detail. So can you give us kind of like a high level, and then
Mm.
as you say, as the conversation goes in, we can kind of pick the bones off it.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a good place to start is like, what is DVT? So DVT is a technology that allows Ethereum validator to be run by multiple parties. So these are like multiple node operators. There are different DVT implementations out there. So I mean, it's us and I think about two or three other companies. Most of us are actually going into mainnet right now. We recently released mainnet, and the other people in our industry are also like going into mainnet now. So it's really exciting, especially when you look at the roadmap, the ETH roadmap. So like we finally arrived at DVT now. So what SSV does, our implementation of DVT, is an infrastructure solution. So what that means is, like, instead of just kind of using this technology to distribute your own validator, we have a whole network of node operators. And what you do, as a staker or as a builder, right? So let's start with builders. That's actually who we cater for. So the idea behind catering for builders is we provide an infrastructure solution, and they can use our smart contracts and everything to build their own staking applications, which are DVT powered. So um, the reason for this is basically to create as many like on ramps to like DVT powered staking applications as possible. So like the network effect, like everything, in Ethereum basically has been because of network effect, like the DeFi Legos, and we're just like one of those Legos, right? We allow people to use DVT and to build their institutional staking pools, or staking as a service, or squad staking, or whatever your needs may be. Build it, but use our infrastructure, and then decentralize your own validator operations. Um, so from a solo staker perspective, you can also come into the network. You can bring your validator key if you used to be in another service. Um, there's a tool that it encrypts your key, which means you can then keep your validator key, private key, offline, which is already a major bonus over traditional staking setups. Usually you have your validator, you have your clients, your ELCL clients, your node, and then your key has to be online 24/7 for duties and stuff like that. So with DVT, you can basically, the key becomes encrypted. That key is then split between multiple node operators. So this can also be 4, 7, 10, 13. So how it works basically for SSV is, um, for every for every three node operators, you can have one offline. So if you have a cluster of 4 node operators, each node operator gets a share of the key. And when a validator duty is requested from the beacon chain, they will put those keys together, create a signature, and then do the duty for you. And like I said, your original key is stored offline. So, I mean, the idea there is basically like decentralization, right? We're trying to distribute the operation of one node to multiple nodes. So imagine you have, 13, let's say you have a cluster of 13 node operators, right? Each one is in a different location. Each one is running different consensus clients. Each one is running maybe on like hardware, you'd have some on different cloud setups, AWS and whatever. And the idea is then if something had to happen to one or two or even three of your node operators, your validator will continue conducting those duties. So I think like the main things here are like um, you're losing single points of failure. Like you no longer have one single point of failure. You're helping with decentralization in terms of like client, location, and all of these things. And then all of this, comes back together to basically, to improve the health of the Ethereum network. So I think
100%.
like in a nutshell, yeah.
There's so many. It's strange that we're having this conversation at this specific time on the 23rd of January, because there seems
Yes.
to be so many aspects of the industry that are playing into into your guys' hands,
Oh, yes.
and
Oh,
they're
yes.
completely kind of uncorrelated, but kind of all come under the same roof. And I want
Yeah.
to get into like these individually in a second, but what I wanted to kind of start with, uh, what are the current? Obviously, we had a big year last year with the merge and Speller upgrade. What are the current issues that is kind of hanging over Ethereum and its shift to proof of stake that you guys are seeing? And as I say, we can just have a short conversation on that and get into a couple of the other um, areas that
Mm.
are, hot topics at the minute, shall we say?
Yeah. So I think, since the inception of the beacon chain, there's always been talks of like centralization issues, like, um, we can get more into these like specific cases later, but like client diversity, having one, maybe like one solution or staking application holding the majority of staked ETH, simply because like if you have a node operator that's running 1,000 validators, something goes wrong with one of our clients, goes offline or whatever, like all of those validators are affected. And that really can create like slashing. I also know like if multiple parties are part of one slashing event, like the slashing penalty becomes much greater. So these things have always been um, we've always been cognizant of this. But I think, since the inception of the ETH roadmap, you can see like DVT technology has always been there. So it's kind of
Mhm.
things that we've already seen these problems. Well, not we, I mean, the super smart guys at the Ethereum Foundation or whatever, have seen these problems. Um, and this is kind of like one of the ways that we can help to negate some of these challenges that are faced by the current standard, right? So like the way we like to think about it, like DVT and SSV is like the new standard for staking on Ethereum, because it's not just um, it helps literally every single tenant like in the staking industry, right? Like solo stakers, node operators, like this technology is really useful for like all of these different people. So I think the reason, like I said once again, like we build it as an infrastructure solution, picks and axes, like the fundamental stuff, is because the more applications are built on SSV, or the more applications using DVT, the more stake will kind of start flowing into DVT staking, and the stronger the network will become, and hopefully more decentralized. I think we can see um, a lot of people are starting to are talking about like self-limiting like guidelines or standards, or like trying to push minority clients and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, one of the big things is if you look at like, for example, Lido, right? They hold like a massive amount of stake. um, but the thing is, they have like in their curated set, they've got like, I can't remember, 20 plus like node operators, and stake is delegated there. So I think the thing is there, it's just like not that it's not decentralized enough, but each one of those presents a single point of failure. And we can get into some integrations now. It's really cool. So this year is definitely a big year for DVT. But yeah, I think those are the kind of things that people are thinking of, that people are aware of. And yeah, I think as like more people become aware of DVT and the different kind of applications, we'll start seeing a bigger amount flowing into those types of technologies.
Yeah, it was quite interesting when I was kind of writing the kind of blockmates outlook for 2024, and I got to the section where I knew I wanted to include distributed validator technology, and more in particular you guys. And I was just looking at, like, for better or for worse, like Lido obviously own majority of liquid staking share, and a large portion of ETH staked on the network through their protocol. And then there was the self-limiting debate that came up in their governance forum, and the vote against self-limiting was like 99.8%. Right?
Yeah.
But that's like asking a business to say, well, you're going to be kind of for profit. You're going to be for profit to a certain point, because obviously
Yeah.
they take a technically kind of like a performance fee on the
I think also people are very like, like Lido doesn't have hasn't had many issues in the past. I think people see this kind of reputation and they're like, yeah, well, why would I want to go stake my ETH with X if Y has been performing so well for so many years?
Mhm.
Like good liquidity LSTs and stuff like that is really important. So yeah, but I mean, talking about LSTs, like the industry has grown like immensely. There's so many people doing LSTs now and projects. I mean, which makes sense, right? You want to have that capital efficiency. You don't just want your ETH to sit there and do nothing. You want to go restake it, or try some interesting yield strategy. So yeah, I think it's a very nuanced, shall I say.
Yeah, 100%. And as I say, it's like you can't I, if you run a business, you can't expect them to just have this kind of cap. So the other angle is, well, how do you guys fit in? And I know I've seen some stuff going back and forth between like the likes of yourselves and Lido, and how they could be potentially kind of looking at that route and like progressing that towards DVT using SSV. But how do you guys mitigate that to like someone who's coming in slightly cold? Like, say someone's just, I don't know, they've got some stake ETH, they don't know the risks or the potential risks. Let's put that out
Mm.
there. But how do you guys kind of help to increase the reliability or mitigate any kind of potential risk? And what does that kind of integration look like? Like, does
Mm.
that make any sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, so basically what we have now, I think this is about the third test. So the Lido Simple DVT module is going through testing right now. It's SSV and Obel, the two DVT like solutions. And basically what we do is that Lido is now testing the technology, which means that like we have clusters on Lido testnet at the moment, and we are looking at their performance and everything, and just trying to get the integration right. So the integration is actually happening into Lido, the simple DVT module. This is very, very interesting stuff because, I mean, at the moment, I think according to the proposal, it's like 0.5% of Lido TVL or like Lido staked ETH will go to DVT, and then maybe in the future it can be raised to 1% and 2%. I mean, that's actually quite a lot that might be moving to DVT powered staking. So what this means essentially is like you have Lido, they have their curated node operators, so node operators that they trust, right? So traditionally, you'd have like a bunch of validators on one node operator. So what Simple DVT will do is, let's say you have like 4 top performing node operators. So instead of having X amount of ETH staked on each node operator, you will have X amount of each staked in a cluster between those 4 node operators. So that's really cool. That really helps kind of spread the risk. And if they are running node operators, each with different consensus clients and stuff like that, that is essentially helping to decentralize Lido like from the inside. The other takeaway from this is actually also very interesting, which is because of simple DVT and because of the way the technology works, they'll be able to start implementing something called the CSM, the community staking module. So this will enable permissionless node operators to kind of join the protocol and to start operating nodes. So, I mean, from a decentralization perspective, it's pretty cool because now you have people running bare metal that might have like similar, similar performance to like a professional node operator. And then you have people that have the ETH that basically reduces the bonding requirement. So it makes it like that module will help Lido become more permissionless, increase the node operator sets, and then also allow people with smaller amounts to bond with to become a validator. So I think this is actually quite a big win, for the in the greater scheme of things. Then this is all basically enabled by DVT technology.
Are there? Because I know Rocket Pool have. Do they have like Rocket Pool mini pools down to 4 ETH now? Maybe is it 8 ETH or 4 ETH? Is this
For it, I
using
think.
DVT as well?
No, they do it in a different way. They use it through, by virtue of the mini pools, I think you're able to,
Okay.
because the node operator brings like a certain amount of ETH. And if you have a mini pool of 4 people, I'm not sure exactly how the math works, but then they get it
No,
to,
they
they're
aggregate
able
it
to bring
down.
down the bond requirement. But yeah, we're actually also quite interestingly, we're busy pursuing like a joint bounty with Rocket Pool right now. There's been some interesting articles about, spinning up a mini pool. Should I say spinning up a mini pool in Rocket Pool, but then you can do it serverless. So like imagine you have like a mini pool on Rocket Pool. You can migrate it to SSV, which makes it like serverless. So you don't need to actually run the hardware. Um, and then you can basically, if you want, you can earn like protocol rewards from Lido and SSV. So I think like the integrations are like, it's very interesting. So like I think SSV, the way that we've done DVT is very smart in terms of being able to, for existing staking protocols and for new staking solutions to kind of utilize this technology. And yeah, so I think imagine you're like a mini pool operator. You just started up your mini pool on the smart node. Then basically you can take your keys, take them over to SSV, split your keys between node operators, and you can also be a node operator yourself. So you can be in your own cluster. And then basically you can be operating a mini pool from SSV serverlessly. But this is not actually this is without any integration actually. So this is just some really smart guy that was playing around. I was like, oh my goodness, this actually works. I co-wrote an article um, with one of our DAO members about this. So if anyone wants to check it out, you can go to SSV website to the blog. So it's interesting stuff. So I mean, we are actually working on an actual integration now. But yeah, so I mean, these two major players are already using DVT Stakewise. Also as a DVT vaults, right? So I mean, and that's just like we also. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like we also like our ecosystem of builders. We have like 50 plus, 55 plus projects busy building applications on SSV Network. So, I mean, we only went live, we only went fully permissionless in December, like the end of December. So we had our rollout. Our rollout started in June, July, and it was like a phased rollout. So like the first we were testing node operators, and then we were testing applications. So we had like 5 or 6 applications go live during those phases, which were bringing in. So essentially, they use our validator infrastructure. So I mean, in the past 3 months, I think we hit about $250 million ETH staked. So it's quite impressive. So like all of these applications will go live, and yeah, just the idea is just to get as much of the staked ETH flowing through DVT.
100%. And what kind of applications are you guys initially seeing, or kind of
Mm,
potentially being worked on currently?
yeah,
Is it stuff to just make it simple for like a smooth brain like me to be able to go and take my
for sure.
ETH
Yeah.
and get over there? Is there anything a little bit more exotic, like what you guys
So I think some of the first to go live are um, I don't want to name drop everyone because there are quite a few, but like ClayStack, Metapool, Stater uses SSV for their ETH. Oh my goodness, I feel so sorry because there are a bunch. But anyway, so yeah, these are basically like and in a spectrum. Like some of them are staking pools, which just go with your amount of ETH.
Mhm.
When they hit 32 ETH, they'll spin up a validator. You get your percentage of rewards. LSTs, lots of liquid staking tokens. This is quite a big thing. Like I mentioned earlier, the LST narrative is really strong. And then also like institutional staking services. I think there are two or three built on SSV, um, which is really cool because I think DVT really unlocks institutional staking for ETH. The reason being, like, institutions have a lot of like risk. You have to be very risk averse and stuff like that. And with DVT, you're kind of helping to spread the risk between your node operators. Like if I'm an institution and I want to run my own nodes, right, I can create four of my own node operators, each in different clients or whatever, and I can have those nodes operate privately on SSV. So then an institution can be like, okay, I want to use my own node operators. We'll use our four node operators in a cluster on SSV. The risk is distributed. We know who the operators are, and they can start earning yield and bringing that staked ETH in. So yeah, I think it's very. I think the nice thing is it's very like um, how should I say? It's like a Swiss Army knife, right? You can use it for like all these different kind of staking flavors, and essentially just like use the technology to distribute the risk.
Awesome. So there's another kind of more recent concern that's came up where you guys could have some potential mitigation on your behalf.
Mm.
But how worried should I be about this supermajority from geth? And can you kind of give
Well,
us as much of
yeah,
a high level to kind of set the scene as possible?
yeah, for sure. I think one of the big things is like one of the guys, part of the SSV DAO. He's in one of the committees, the grants committee, I think, and also a node operator for Chainlink, SSV, Rocket Pool. Um, Thorsten, I can't remember his surname now, but this is someone that I really like. He really knows his shit. And what he said recently was like it might actually be less risky to run a minority client, um, because if you think about it, um, I think on one of the websites, clientdiversity.org, or you can see geth at the moment has got like an 75, 80+% majority usage, um, and that's actually pretty wild. Like the reason is like if you are running, let's say Coinbase, for example, right? Let's just start here. Actually, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, there have been multiple issues with clients. There was an issue with the Nethermind and with Besu, right? Yeah, there you go. 84% on the execution client. Like that is absolutely wild. So let's like have a scenario where you have a centralized exchange. Maybe they're only using geth. Something hectic happens to geth, and all of those validators go offline. Like that is like potentially a massive slashing event. And according to Thorsten, also he said that this could actually spell like danger for Ethereum itself. Like if Ethereum had to, if one of these, if this concept, geth specifically, had to go offline for quite a while, it would actually have major repercussions to the Ethereum network. The other thing is also correlated penalties. Um, you know, for isolated incidents, there are light penalties, but when there are many validators implicated in the same thing, um, the repercussions are much more serious. Um, and it's funny that we're talking about this because recently, actually, I think today, um, Coinbase, there was a chat about Coinbase using geth and using this this majority client or super majority client, and the fact that if something had to happen to the client, like what would they do? So I think this is becoming a very known issue. I also know, some of these staking pools and stuff are like actively allocating staked ETH to minority clients. So let's say you've got like, let's say you're running DVT, you've got multiple clusters, and then when these full validators start rolling in, they're just delegating, properly to, these to these node operators that are running minority clients, because yeah, if something had to happen to the supermajority client, as you said, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it just feels like it's just another week and there's something else to worry about.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. Like, I feel like there's always going to be like an issue. There's always something to fix, always something to make better. But I do think that this has been, supermajority clients have been like a thing since the beacon chain, right? Since the beacon chain launched. And like that screen that you shared earlier, like there are more clients coming out now. And I think with these bigger institutions, or like Coinbase, for example, like they have certain requirements. So like geth is like a well-established client, so obviously they're using it because they know it's good. But I mean, having for someone like that to move over to a minority client that might not meet their recommendations, if something had to happen, it's a different story. So yeah, I think, as the narrative kind of gets stronger for people to realize, like, okay, it's no longer just like staking and earning money. It's like we are contributing to the health of this network. And people are becoming more conscious of the fact that, I have to, if I want my money to be safe, I have to allocate it properly, and to know, that, I'm doing my bit to try and, improve the overall health of the network, so that the computer can continue going for the next, 100 years or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, what's it like dealing with these liquid staking protocols? Is everyone kind of slowly coming to consensus on the idea of DVT, and what's the kind of conversations happening kind of behind closed doors? Is everyone kind of welcoming the idea, or how's that kind of the
Mm.
temperature?
I think we've received. I think DVT has been flying under the radar.
Yeah.
For most of the time. I think last year we went to Istanbul, and I think that was like for me the first time where we saw a lot of DVT talk. I think as we as we moved along the roadmap, and people were like, okay, what's next? But like, um, I mean, SSV has been like 2+ years in the making, almost 3. And it's been quite a wild ride. It's quite a complex, um, you know, not system, but like idea, because now you're adding another layer, to the already many layers in the validator, side of things. But the thing is, I think it's a really important kind of technology, and we've had, a lot of good interactions with like staking pools and people who want to, you know build these kinds of things. We Last year we have this thing called Chain Reactions. It's like a bi-weekly kind of Twitter space, that we do. We're on a break now, though. We interviewed all of our partners last year, or like the majority of them. And I think one of the big things has always been like, okay, so how is your node operator like allocation look like? How are you choosing node operators? Everyone wants to do it right. Um, so I find like, the builders definitely have this kind of mindset, already. And yeah, I think, we have, like I said, we have 50 plus builders in the ecosystem. I mean, we have now Lido, Rocket Pool, and other big staking, services integrating DVT. So I think like now, people are really becoming aware of it, and it is quite powerful because it really does, support like, like the ground level of Ethereum. So I mean, there's even, like intersections with, restaking and stuff like that. I think it's very interesting to see where we'll go. But so far, like DVT is slowly, because essentially you can use it like anywhere that you need a validator or something to process transactions, like you can incorporate DVT. So yeah, it's definitely becoming a bit more of a talking point now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I suppose that and talk of the town currently, along with what you guys are building, is obviously liquid restaking and shared security, and what's happened with Eigen Layer. And what can you just fill us in on? Because I seen there was obviously the Twitter kind of post from you guys how you could potentially enable a lot more of a reliable system through what Eigen Layer are building with the whole restaking and shared security protocol. But I'd love to try and kind of pick your brain on where you guys internally, where you're kind of thinking this can go. And obviously you've kind of literally just mentioned about how for any distributed validator system you guys can obviously implement. But I'd love to kind
Mm.
of see what the overlaps are here. Is there any engineering work that would need to be done to kind of get the ball moving there? And obviously it's going to explode as soon as it goes live. Everything's just going to get crazy, and that's all anyone's going to be talking about for months. So I'd love to kind of see how you guys are going to be part of that
Mm,
narrative as well, really.
for sure. I think Eigenlayer is like a very interesting concept. As soon as it came out of the gates, everyone was like, "What? What is this? Will it work?" And I think in a short time they've really made a lot of like meaningful progress. Um, and I think where like SSV comes in is that, well, firstly, actually do have a few validators running, distributed validators running on Eigenlayer mainnet. Just checking that out. But the intersection is essentially like, um, you have validators running in Eigenlayer pods, and the thing is like these are kind of like where they use them as the backbone for like application, like different dApps and stuff. um I'm not like 100% sure of like the proper terminology, but the point is that like you can have an eigenlayer pod distributed by DVT. So if you have like, that's kind of like making eigenlayer validators that are used like for dApps and stuff like that more decentralized and more fault tolerant. So it's kind of like us supporting them in that way. But then again, which is really cool, is like almost like the same with Rocket Pool. If I'm running a pod um, on using SSV infrastructure, you could potentially be earning like rewards from Eigenlayer and from SSV. So I actually, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can definitely see people stacking these rewards, these protocol rewards, running on multiple protocols. And I think that just makes for a much more like interwoven, setup. And I think anywhere, I think it doesn't really matter what you do, but it's much better to have like a distributed cluster than a standard validator with its key online and susceptible to all of these issues. So um, I think we'll have to see where it goes. It's very interesting. Like there's lots of interesting stuff, especially with like bonding validators um, with like, or like getting a smaller bond for node operators, or vice versa. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think we'll see more of this in the future, but the restaking narrative is like really hot right now. So we see stuff like Swell Network also kind of using their LST.
Really good friends of
Yes.
those guys. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I think we've also had some talks with them in the past. But yeah, point being is like, where LSTs and restaking come together, like, this is just a new avenue to go down for the staking industry. But I think as long as the validation layer itself is like secured with DVT and decentralized, um, that's going to make all of these things just a lot more secure and sustainable.
What do you think about? So this is a quite a recent kind of announcement from Eigenlayer themselves. So they potentially looking at different ecosystems and using the already incredible depth of security that is through staked ETH, and then taking it to the likes of Cosmos, and then using it to venture out beyond Ethereum. It's like, is there any thoughts around that? Do you want to kind of get your feet under the table with what's happening in Ethereum land first, and then see what's on the cards? Like, am I jumping the gun a
Hmm.
little bit? Like, where's your head at with that?
I think it's an interesting question. I think for now, staying ETH centric is probably like um, the smarter move. Um, to be honest, I'm not sure how it'll work if you have, all of these other chains being secured. Like, what does that mean for the validator counts for for SSV, for Ethereum? Um, you know, it's a very interesting like intersection. So to be honest, I have no idea where it's going, but I think most of these things at the moment, when you look at like Eigen and stuff like that, where they're trying to just you know build, just give the opportunity for people to build their apps and stuff like that, using their layer, which is on a layer, which is on a layer. uh, so I see that like I think when you have all of these different layers starting getting involved with each other, things get quite messy. But I'm not like a core developer or anything, so I actually have no idea. But I think you know there's always been like this idea of having like this multi-blockchain, like the super interoperable like field where all of these blockchains are working together. Maybe they're securing each other. Who knows? Restaking might just be the beginning of something like that. But yeah, I think it's a difficult one to pinpoint.
I think, yeah, this year is going to be kind of crazy, isn't it? So you got what you guys are building with and DVT, and then restaking, and then there's some quite strange looking Frankenstein chains that are like super modular and
Yeah,
sovereign
for
chains.
sure.
It's don't get me wrong, I love it because we're always looking for new stuff to be kind of researching and reporting on and stuff like that. It's great. Difficult to keep up with. So I can only
Yes, I'm
imagine being like on the protocol side of it.
sure. Yeah, I think that's like everyone is kind of like, not everyone, but like most people kind of find their niche, they find their chain and their community and the projects that they like, and then but I think having someone that is like someone that understands the workings of all the chains and of like, I mean, that's I think you need some hectic computing power for that.
I have kind of go to people that I know I can trust in like specific niches. So maybe if it's in the Cosmos, or maybe if it's like specifically for restaking, or maybe it's for like oracles or some shit. So I just kind of cherry pick the best and the brightest out of them, and if I have any questions, I won't pretend I can spread myself thin and like learn everything, because it's a
Yeah,
fool's errand, I think.
yeah, same. I think it's like it's always good to kind of um be willing to learn, because you never know, like someone might be doing something on a different protocol and you just haven't thought about doing it on your own. Or yeah, I mean, how many rollups do we have now? Like the
More than
alt.
tokens, I think now.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like technological evolution, right? So you see like all of these things competing. Who has the best infrastructure, who has the best incentives, and like the strong will survive.
Was there any incentives for people to come over to SSV from the protocol itself? Like, how did you initially? A lot of
Hmm,
people like having a shiny carrot in front of them in this space, as you well know. So, how have
for
you kind of
sure.
bootstrapped and got that initial
Hmm,
traction? Because it's
yeah.
not a
So I
small
think
amount of ETH.
that we have. So I mean, we started off with a grants program.
Mhm.
I think we kind like I said, we kind of wanted people to build using our infrastructure and build like these next gen staking applications. It doesn't matter really what flavor. Um, and I think now that we have like a decent ecosystem, maybe I think we have around 8, 9 applications live. I think during the rest of this year, we still have another 50, 50 applications going live. Um, and I think the big thing was going permissionless. So after the network went permissionless, it means that anyone can come to the network. You can run a node, and you can be you can become one of the node operators in the network. Potentially have a few validators. So basically, if you're a node operator in the network, you get paid in SSV. Um, so that's kind of the incentive on the one side. Um, and then at the same time, we released in October an incentivization program. So it's basically when you register a validator to the SSV network, um, you automatically like qualify for a boosted APR. So there are like multiple tiers. The first tier is like 1 to 2,000 validators on the network, which was 50% APR boost. And then there it goes down to 10. And I think we allocated about 1 million SSV. Uh, so market price, I don't know what it is. I think it's about 30 million dollars. So if you have so if you're a solo staker, you can come to SSV, you register your validator or validators on the network, you choose your node operators, and then you will be paid out like those APR rewards. But if you're someone that doesn't have a 32 ETH, you can use one of our staking partners. So like on the SSV website, you'll see we have a builders hub, which is basically like a list of the builders which are currently online. And in there, you can see who the teams are, and you can see if they are sharing their rewards. So if I'm coming with like 4 ETH rights or whatever, and I stake with one of our launch partners or one of SSV's launch partners, they will also pay you out some of those rewards. But I mean, it's always it's up to the developers. I like saying like SSV is it's a developer, it's an agnostic protocol, like anyone can come in and use it however they want. I had a very interesting conversation about MEV with a guy from the roll up in Istanbul. And it's very interesting because some people are like, I might not want to take part in like unethical MEV, or okay, I went air quotes, but like unethical MEV, front running, stuff like that. um, and the thing is, like, we have all these relays available. You have to choose which node operators running which relays are what you would like. So I think that's like it's a good place to be because everyone has different goals, and if you're coming into the network, you're like, okay, well, I want to do only OFAC compliant blocks. Or if you're an institution, for example, building on SSV, you can choose like, okay, I am only using node operators that are going to produce OFAC compliant blocks, stuff like that. So I think one of the big things is just kind of making this technology available to as many as people as possible, and having a non-custodial experience, being completely permissionless, completely trustless. I mean, that is like the ideal building block, like in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what? So what's next? Is there anything kind of short to medium term that you guys are kind of excited about? Is there anything that you kind of want to bring up that
Mm.
people should be kind of aware of?
Yeah, sure, sure. So short term is kind of just we're doing the simple DVT integration is probably like the biggest thing on our list right now, is just getting everything online, getting the tests done with, moving to mainnet and continuing that kind of support. Because that really does stand to be quite a big avenue for us, and also just the exposure of DVT, like Lido is using DVT, Rocket Pool's using DVT. I think those are really important. We have some exciting announcements for Q2. They are slightly under wraps, so it's like it's very exciting. It's got to do with improving the UX, and just like again trying to change the staking game. We spoke about restaking earlier. there's really interesting stuff happening. So for Q2, for Q1, Lido simple DVT, and then Q2 will be like SSV V2 with a bunch of really exciting stuff to help builders and kind of just continue what we've been doing, but just in a different kind of avenue. Now that the DVT part is not out of the way, but being established, as a product, we can start working on some other cool stuff.
Awesome. Well, how can builders or even just people genuinely curious get in touch? Where do you want people to be funneled towards? Is Discord, you personally, like where can people find you?
So I think the Discord is always a really good place to go. If you have any questions, you can just go over there. We have a really cool community and some really nice admins and people that help out. So I'd say if you're like a solo staker, join the community, go to Discord. If you're a developer, go check out the website. We have a whole like a dev center for people, show you like how you can build staking pools, give you some more information about how to use the smart contracts, and stuff like that. And then obviously the grants page, which is there, will refer you to like a Notion page. And then, yeah, I think, to date, we've allocated about $3.1 million to grantees, people building all these different staking applications. And I think that initiative is just going to continue. We don't plan on slowing down, really. The more, almost like going full circle right now, but the more on-ramps there is to DVT staking, the better it is for the health of the Ethereum network. So yeah, I'd say, for those that want to literally get paid to build a really cool staking app, go to the grants.
There you go. So if you are a little bit more technically savvy than myself, because I'm basically got the technical prowess of a 6-year-old, get yourself over there. And if this is interested you, then check out the Blockmates 2024 thesis as well. I've just give more market commentary stuff on where I think this is headed and stuff like founders don't like talking about. So go and take a look at that. But Robert, thanks so much. And as I say, open invite if you guys are pushing stuff out. Please come back and chat to us. We'd always love to kind of get an update on what you guys are doing. And yeah, best of luck. Try and get some sleep because I don't think this year is going to be great for you personally because I think you've got that much shit happening. I think it's going to be a little bit crazy. But thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.